say a bit more about the philosophical understanding of, or some sort of philosophical definition of what reality is as a concept, not the actual reality. So I'm going to think aloud about the concept of reality. But if you want to, one of the things I'm reading is this old article, what is, I think it's What is Reality, by someone called David G. Ritchie. And this was published in May 1892, Volume 1, Number 3 of Philosophical Review. The top tier. I don't know what it's rating right now, but when I was in the business, this was one of the top tier philosophy journals. But that's a very old article. And sometimes I just go back and read old articles because they're much more much more thoughtful, I would say. Anyway, that wasn't the point. If you want to read a bit more about this in a fruitful way, that's one of the readings. It is actually available to download free of charge at the moment. So I'll put the link to it. Okay, so let's go back to what reality is. What are some of the definitions of reality in philosophy? So let's look at some of the first definition, which this is from Wikipedia. It says in philosophy, reality is the totality of all that exists. And if I stop, I exist in the universe. So if I stop here and don't read the rest of the definition, so this one says in philosophy, as if that's the only position in philosophy, but this is one of the positions in philosophy. Reality is the totality of all that exists. Now, this is not a very because then you, in a sense, it's not a. I mean, as a indication, it's good. It's fine definition, but the precise definition, which are almost very difficult to come up with, it's not that good because it's defining reality or explaining reality or describing reality in obviously inverted commas, because it's talking about concept of reality. But it's using exists, which is even more difficult word, because tree exists here, but two numbers exist, for example. So this is a huge debate in philosophy. So I'm just trying to give you a sense of all that, not to give you any precise definition. So reality is all that. So if we stop at that, then reality would include number, because they exist in some sense, trees, and reality would include appearance as well as tree, as it actually exists independent of my perception of it. My thoughts are also reality, because they're real in the sense that in some sense they exist, I think, but they are not necessarily real in the sense that they exist independent of my thinking, for example. Okay, so these are all sorts of questions which arise when you talk about reality. Now this, I stopped there, but this, and that's why I picked it up randomly. But this definition goes on; it doesn't stop, and which basically belies or contradicts what I said. That so reality, the totality of all that exists in the universe. It is the state of things as they are. So it is the state. Now let again stop here. State of the things as they are. And understood. So as they are. So let's say things in themselves. What kind of things in? So reality, he is restricting reality to things in themselves. So tree, as I see it, is not real in that sense. But that doesn't mean that tree is unreal. We would say tree is ideal, for example, in Kantian terms. For example. So if you think so in here, reality is contrasted with not unreality but ideal. And if we had stopped here, then hardly anything is unreal, really. Everything is real, which exists in one way or may exist. Okay. But if we move on to the second part of this definition, then it restricts reality to things in themselves, things as they are in themselves. And it's going to restrict even more when I go on to the next sentence. But if you stop here, then even my thought might be still, real, but they would be real as they are in themselves, not as I experience them at a meta level, for example. That's how you do philosophy. This is called philosophizing. Pick up thing and sort of in a consistent way, just make up things from that, in the hope that it will clear things or create new problems or do something like that. Yeah, or you will be able, will help you to understand the distinctions which you didn't, which you weren't aware of when you started thinking about those things. Okay. So let's move on to the next. So far it has said that reality is the totality of all that exists in the universe. It is the state of the things that they are, rather than as they are. I had to stop. Rather than how one might wish them to be. How one might wish them to be. So in that sense, if we put this bit, then a lot of appearance would become part of reality again, because even though they are not thing as they are, but in a certain way they are thing as they are, but not exhaustive of thing as they are. Rather than one out. But I mean, the appearance of tree, I can't just make it up, So there is a real element in that which will resist that. So if we include this, then maybe appearances will, or at least some of appearance would also come back into reality, which were excluded by this second inclusion, for example. Okay, and this goes on. Let us finish it. Then it goes on to say, reality includes everything that has existed, exists, or will exist, whether or not it is observable or comprehensible. So existence as such, past, present, future, is all part of reality, whether we can observe it or not. So in that sense, there is observable reality, non-observable reality, and there is a reality which we haven't observed so far, but in principle is observable, but they're part of reality which will always be beyond our reach. So that's one definition of reality. And if we stop at different points in that, so it seems that reality is equal to existence of all sorts. Then reality is thing in itself, but then appearance become part of it at some point. And the last one, relating to everything that it's equal to existence again, but existence is something exists, present, past, and future, which can be observable or unobservable. So that will bring in a lot of more things. Okay, so that's just one definition of reality. Okay, let's. I think that's enough. I just wanted to give an indication that reality is a much more complex concept than Alamagaba seemed to be making it out to be here, and saying that reality is. I'm not saying, but contrasting reality, at least implicitly, with unreality, gives an impression that reality, that's the only contrast, and then it gives an impression that reality is actually opposed to appearance, but it's not necessary. So appearances are real in a way as well. So appearances and reality are not contradictory concepts. We can say that appearance doesn't exhaust reality, but that doesn't mean that appearances are not real necessarily. Similarly, when we say appearance, when we say reality, we might be contrasting it with ideality, but ideality doesn't mean that those things are not real in a larger context, in a broader sense of the real. Okay, that's all I wanted to actually point out. My point two. Yeah. Let's go back to the text. So I think let's read it, and probably that was enough for today, and then we can move to his actual